Welcome you to my channel, The Social Insights. Myself Dr. Inko Bora, Assistant Professor in College Guwahati. Today I am going to discuss about gender and its difference with sex. As gender is a very basic thing, basic topic, and everybody should know. But mostly laymen think that sex is similar to gender, but exactly not. There is some basic difference. That's why I am going to discuss on that. Here, I put a picture on about a girl and boy. About girl, society's perception towards girl is that she will need to know her place. That means society has some perception that women are weak, so she should be uh, maintain some rules and regulation in the society. She is always in dominant position. But in context of male society's perception that he better not to cry. That means he is strong. That is actually gender. So I am going to discuss about sex and gender. First of all, I want to interpret sex. What is it? Actually, before going to discuss about gender, it's very important to know about sex as it is interlinked with gender. Sex, it refers to a person's biological status and it is typically categorized as male, female or intersex. If you see, there are various indicators of biological sex including sex chromosomes, internal reproductive organs and external genitalia. So if you say that about the level and type of hormones present in male and female bodies, that are also different. Normally a man has 46 chromosome to X chromosome and a man have 46 X and Y chromosome. If you see the interpretation of Susan Bustow, he actually defines sex and he mentioned about the example of sexual differences between male and female. Susan Bustow mentioned that sex, it is biologically determined, and he mentioned about the different examples of it or differences between the two terms. For example, men have no developed uterus, women have developed uterus, and men cannot become pregnant or give birth to children naturally, but women can become pregnant and give birth to children. And about the basic physical differences between male and female, that is universal in nature and that is fixed. But this is the thing in a broad way that sex refers to the biological and physical differences between male and female. And at the time of birth of an individual, he or she comes to be labeled as a boy or girl, depending on one's sex. So, however, it has been argued that on the basis of these physical differences, individuals are socialized according to specific gender expectations and rules. So, gender, it is the thing that on the basis of physical differences, society socialized individual according to specific gender expectation and rule. So, if you see that at the time of birth, besides the basic biological differences in the genitals and reproductive organs of male and female cells, there is not much difference between them. But society makes the differences between boy and girl through gender construction. When infants are categorized as belonging to a particular sex, they are subject to a range of gendered behavior through gendered socialization. And therefore, Judith Butler mentioned, sex is natural and it comes first, and gender, it is perceived as a secondary construct, which is imposed over the top of this natural distinction. And Butler argues that sex itself became a social category. And she explained that though sex is seen as biological, it is as much a product of society as its gender. So, there is some important thing that Butler has mentioned, but here gender, it actually described the differences between differences of behavior between men and women, which are described as masculine and feminine. As I mentioned about masculine and feminine, yes, I will have to define the term masculinity and femininity, then you will be clear that what is exactly gender. Actually, differences between sex and gender have raised the issues of male and female, masculine and feminine dichotomy. And both masculinity and femininity, that are important biological, social and cultural categories and construct. Both possess individual and collective meaning. In a society, women and men describe and define themselves in the context of femininity and masculinity. Women wish to recognize themselves as feminine and men as masculine. And feminist writers view that biological differences between man and woman get heightened through social description of masculinity and femininity. The patterns of gender differences can be seen when the character is either masculine or feminine. For example, Pink and blue, that is gendered color. Pink is regarded as feminine and blue as masculine. Again, to be strong, hard, that are related to masculine character, and weak, soft, that are associated with feminine character. So, masculinity and femininity, that are concepts which signify the social outcomes of being male or female. So, what is gender? It actually describes the differences of behavior between man and woman, which are described as masculine or feminine. So, if you see the interpretation of various feminist writings, you can see that they viewed these differences, that means masculinity and femininity, that are not biological but are social constructs of patriarchal society. Okay. So, actually, the differences between the masculinity and femininity are not biological, but it is social construct of patriarchal society, because in patriarchal society, men are on dominant position, always in dominant position, and women are oppressed majority. And to maintain the superiority, the male or the patriarchal society always impose some rules and regulation over a man. And because of that, they made some differences, that if you are a girl, that you will have to be soft. If you are a boy, you will have to be strong one. So in that way, there are some basic differences created by patriarchal society. So masculine and femininity, that are not biological but a social construct. And Chatterjee mentioned that gender gets determined gradually after the birth of the child and is said to be almost totally influenced by external factor. That's the thing. That's why actually that at the time of birth, besides the basic biological differences in the genitals and reproductive organ of male and female child, there is not much difference between them. But society gradually teach them, society gradually socialize them as male and female. They teach them the different masculine and feminine character. And that's why gender gets determined gradually after the birth of the child, who is totally influenced by external factor. Therefore, Simon de Beauvoir in the book Second Sex rightly mentioned that one is not born as woman. At the time of birth, a baby girl is simply a baby girl. They have some basic difference with baby boy. But gradually she learns that how she will have to behave, and the society teach her that yes, as a girl you will have to behave in that way. As a girl you cannot do it. If you are a girl you will have to do it. If you are a boy you will have to do it. This is the gender construction. That one is not born as a man, but rather become a man, and it is civilization as a whole that produces this case. So that's the thing actually that Kessler and McKenna, they also mention that gender, it is about psychological, social and cultural aspects of maleness and femaleness. It refers the characteristics acquired by males and females through socialization. It is about set of traits or behavioral disposition on the basis of particular sex category. And what Dongan mentioned, that it is about social construction that is subject to change, sometimes quite dramatically over time. So as gender, it is social construction, that's why it is subject to change. Sometimes maybe revolutionary one, it may be sometimes gradual one. What will view that sex is a word that refers to biological differences between male and female, the invisible difference in genitalia, the related difference in procreative function. However, gender, it is a matter of culture. It refers to the social classification into masculine and feminine. Sex is natural and therefore largely unchanging and fixed, but gender, it is constructed socially and thus always has a scope for change. So this is exactly the thing, that gender is a matter of culture, and which refers to the social classification of masculine and feminine, and it may be changed. Has always a scope for change. So the gender role that is adopted by an individual, that is manly or unmanly, according to the standard of culture, is oddly enough almost wholly learned or little if at all built in. In fact, the gender role learned by the age of 2 years is for individual almost irreversible, even if it runs counter the physical sex of the subject. So if Comport explained that gender differences in the society makes the man superior through his role as breadwinner, which gives him a position of power in the society. So that's why actually that the gender role that is determined gradually after the birth of the child and is said to be almost totally influenced by external factor. And here I want to mention about Shulamit Farhas's work, The Dialectic of Sex. She actually mentioned that patriarchy exploits women's biological capacity. She viewed that to break away from the patriarchal operation, the only way is to use technological advances to free themselves from the burden of childbirth. This is about the, you can see that natural capacity of women, but on the basis of that, some women are subordinated or dominated. So this is the thing that actually, if you see that sex, this is about physical differences, but gender, it is about social, psychological, and cultural differences. And Anthony Giddens also mentioned that point, that gender means social, psychological, and cultural differences between male and female, and culture to culture that may be different. If you see the condition of a man in, if you see that, yes, I have mentioned here, the Oakley also mentioned that gender, it is a matter of culture. If you see the condition of woman or status of woman in tribal society or in non-tribal society, you can see the difference. If you see the condition of woman in patriarchal society or condition of or status of woman in matriarchal society, it is different. In matriarchal society, mostly women take mostly decision. They have some dominant role. But in some patriarchal society, women mostly they are the sufferer. So this is the matter of culture. And as sex is natural, therefore it is unchanging, largely it is unchanging and fixed. But as gender constructed socially, and therefore it has always a scope for change. So here I mentioned about sex role and gender role, through which actually everybody will be very clear about the difference between sex and gender. Sex role that is biologically determined, and gender role that is society's evaluation of behavior as masculine and feminine. Again, if you see about female sex role, that's about childbearing, and male sex role, that is ovum fertilization. If you see feminine role, that's about cooking, childcare, etc. And if you see masculine role, that's about fishing, hunting, etc. Sex role, it is same in all society, they are universal. Gender role may differ from society to society. Sex role never changes with history, but gender role can change with history. Sex role can be performed by only one of the sexes. Gender role that can be performed by both sexes. Sex role are biologically determined, and gender role are socially and culturally determined. So this is the thing actually. So at last, in conclusion, I just want to conclude by saying that while the terms sex and gender are often used interchangeably in everyday language, they have more specialized meaning in sociology. Gender is cultural and sex is physical one. It is rooted in ideology which determines femininity and masculinity on cultural differences. And therefore, it cannot have universal application. The degree and the definition depicted in different ways from time to time, from place to place, and from group to group. It impacts on personality values which are culturally determined. And it plays a very significant role in all activities of life. So it is commonly noticed that conflict between man and woman are encompassed in a large patriarchal world, and women are marginalized, neglected, and overlooked and discriminated in every sphere. So that's the thing that today I am just going to conclude that sex and gender both are very important term to understand the paper Sociology of Gender. Thank you.